All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the New England Patriots in tonight's video, and I have to talk about this team because obviously, they've had a really fun offseason with Mike Vrabel. They picked up a bunch of cats like Stephon Diggs, Morgan Moses, Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane, Harold Landry, Milton Williams. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We know this is people are actually saying it's a rebuild in New England. It's more of a retool. It's very similar to what Washington did last year. It's very similar to what Houston did 2 years ago. But the good news for this team is it's a little bit different because Drake May has already had a rookie season. So we're ready to get back to business. So I don't have to sit here and say, all right, the Patriots were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year. Let's try and get to 7 wins. Let's see the Patriots try and hover around 500 because their sights should be at minimum playoffs. That's how good this team really can be. And now they've got their offensive line. They've had, a phenomenal draft in Will Campbell. I'm loving Kyle Williams. I think Kyle Williams might be, honestly, I'm trying to not fall in love with the tape here, but he might be the dude at wide receiver in the draft. But I want to talk about this team in general because you guys are currently going through OTAs, and I just keep hearing really good things about Kyle Williams, the new look offensive line, and that's actually where we're going to start it off. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, along with at least one Patriots video every single week. Thank you guys for tuning in. So we have to talk about this offensive line because it's why New England was as bad as it was last season. I know maybe the roster wasn't as good as it is right now on paper, at least, but the offensive line truly was that bad. And I read a nice article over on The Athletic by Chad Graff, and he was just kind of breaking it down. So obviously a bunch of new additions here. And last season it was miserable. But one thing you notice, like I made a day one OTA Patriots video a few days ago, earlier this past week, and it was just like a 5-second clip of their offensive line. And it's just a grown man offensive line. And we know Mike Vrabel is going to prioritize the trenches both offensively and defensively. But last year was one of, if not the worst offensive line in the entire NFL. And Drake May, we said this a couple of days ago, Drake May was drafted so early, right? Jaden Daniels gets the start. Bo Nix gets the start. Caleb Williams gets the start. And everybody this time last year was like, Drake May shouldn't start because the offensive line's that bad. And it was that bad. And so when Drake finally comes in and they let him take the reins of the starting quarterback, he was under constant pressure. And that also relates to a terrible running game. There's no open holes. There's no open gaps. So at right tackle, New England immediately goes for a veteran in Morgan Moses from the New York Jets. Reliable, veteran presence. They put his locker right next to Will Campbell, so he's been mentoring him. Morgan Moses has also said a bunch of nice things about Will at OTA, saying he's eager to learn. He's always looking for more reps. He's always asking me questions. So that's why Morgan Moses was brought in. He's also a very good offensive tackle, good right tackle, but just in general, the 2 tackles last year for the Patriots were not good. Immediately upgraded. One's a vet, one's a rook, but I'm loving these tackles. And then they just commit to Owenhu at right guard. Last season, he was shifting between guard and tackle. It was an absolute nightmare. And then at center, they made a bunch of nice moves. They pick up Garrett Bradbury from the Minnesota Vikings in free agency. They follow that up getting Jared Wilson, Georgia's center, in the 3rd round of the draft. My hot take is still that I think Jared Wilson will be your starting center week 1, but we'll pocket that. And then left tackle, like we said, Will Campbell, right? Now, the one position we didn't mention was Cole Strange. Or actually left guard. Sorry, I just spoiled it. We haven't talked about the left guard position. That's where Cole Strange comes in. And this is a guy who, like, I'm a casual. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I do cover the NFL. But, like, Cole Strange, to me, is super intriguing, and that hopefully is the answer. And apparently he's been really impressing in training camp, but the dude's been battled from injuries. I mean, he's been littered with injuries since he got drafted in the 1st round of 2022. So at the start of the offseason, we weren't sure if he was going to play center. We weren't sure if he was going to be a guard. And then they pick up Jared Wilson in the draft. And before that, Bradbury in free agency. So he's not playing center. He's, I think, going to be the starting left guard. And here's the reason. Injuries over the past 2 seasons have absolutely devastated him. He has only played in 3 of the Patriots' last 20 football games and only 13 of the last 34. So whether you're a first round pick, a veteran, I mean, just like the dude's a first round pick. He's barely seen the field. So it's hard to improve. It's hard to even really know what you have at that position when he's on the sideline that much. So if Cole Strange can stay healthy at left guard, that's my best bet at who's going to win that pretty easily. So if all that comes to fruition, this starting offensive line should at worst be around average next season, which would, if you're a Patriots fan, man, you probably know what I'm talking about. That would be like huge. If the Patriots were a middle of the pack offensive line next year compared to last season, that would just be absolutely huge. And then we have to talk about the two rookies. And, Kyle Williams has been fascinating. I got a comment on a video before the draft had even began. And this guy was saying, maybe he's watching this video, he was saying that, Kyle Williams should be the first receiver taken in the draft. I think he actually said that he should be the first pick in the draft. So I didn't think too much of it. But one of the excerpts he said in that comment really stood out to me now in retrospect, where he said he makes defenders miss before making his move. And that's true. And Christian Gonzalez just had a really good quote on Kyle Williams. And he said this: he comes in, head down, gets to work. He's hungry, ready to go. At this point, that's all you can ask from him. Come in, get to work, and ask questions when needed. And then he came on the presser 2 weeks ago after rookie minicamp, and he said, at this position, it's a craft. It's an art. You've got to take pride in your art. Just being able to have those little details is what's going to turn you from great to elite. I'm trying to be elite. Now, you can watch the tape, you can watch the film, you can watch the OTA highlights. When you hear him utter those words that he wants to be elite and that he's mastering his craft and this is art to him, and then you watch his film last season, you watch his rep at the Senior Bowl, and it's like, this dude's might be a superstar. I mean, he genuinely might be a superstar. His 8.4 yards after the catch per reception ranked first amongst all wide receivers in this year's class. 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns this past season at Washington State. The guy's an absolute stud. And hopefully the tape just kind of speaks for itself because, unfortunately it's May 23rd and we won't be able to see this guy get live reps for a couple of more months. And then you also have Travion Henderson in the running back room. And this dude's speed is crazy. So you picked him in the second round. It was kind of a quote unquote surprise because Antonio Gibson's under contract. Ramondre Stevenson is still under contract. But at practice, like the first clip we saw was this dude's calves. I mean, it's like Mount Everest. That's not a good comparison. It's like Mount Rushmore, the size of his calves. It's very clearly when you see this guy on the field at Patriots practice why he was selected. He's going to be huge on third down. He's going to be huge in the screen game, and he's going to be huge for the foreseeable future. So, folks, that's it from me. I hope you all have a great Memorial Day weekend. That's it for me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Give me a loose win projection for New England at this point down below, and we'll circle back on that in our next video. Peace.